it's gone. Brody Kostecki is the king of the mountain. He got it pulled up. He made the He is now in 2024 the Repco Supercars Champion. And what a drive today.
Welcome back to our summer cooldown season reviews, proudly brought to you by City Rural Insurance Brokers. James Pavey from supercars.com. My mate Zach, how are you going?
I'm good, thank you, Paves. Nearly at the end of this series.
Nearly at the end. We've got two teams to go. And this team, wow, what a return to form for Tickford Racing, Zach. I mean, 4 wins, plenty of poles, plenty of podiums. We'll get to that in a second, but you've got to start with the rough stuff first. I mean, how they got to 4th and 5th in the end. A tough start to the season. I mean, Cam Waters was unbelievable at the moments that we saw him. But to be 388 points down behind round 3, I mean, that's pretty tough to take.
Yeah, you just don't win championships for that position, do you? It's sort of that magic 300-point mark of a whole event's worth of points. If you fall anywhere behind that at any point of the season, it's incredibly hard to make that back up. And ultimately, it was the case for Cam Waters. But I believe one of your stats from the season was after Topor, I believe Cam was collected the second most amount of points behind Will Brown for the season. So if it wasn't for that start of the year, then Cam would have been right in contention for the championship. But, I mean, Bathurst 500, he was crook, the car wasn't quick. It's just not a good way to start your season. You're always on the back foot after that. And then Australian Grand Prix, it was better, but ultimately got put in the wall by Matt Payne, unintentionally, but I think we even saw the reaction from Cam after that shunt. He was mightily annoyed, and I think, yes, a lot of that is because of the incident and getting swiped into the wall by your opponent when you're fighting for a race win. But I reckon there was a lot of frustration of, oh my word, I've just lost my championship fight right there and then. And only the 5th race of the season, like, yes, it's early to be thinking that, but at the same time, it's just, you're just throwing away too many points so early in the season, and no matter how hard you try, no matter how well you perform to end the year, unless you're winning race after race after race, there's just no way you can really make it all back up realistically.
Before we get into too much detail, Zach, let's get a message from our partners. Our season reviews are proudly sponsored by City Rural Insurance Brokers. City Rural, a subsidiary of the Cowden Group of companies, has over 50 years' experience supporting their clients. They offer a range of specialist insurance from heavy industry to food trucks. They are your insurance pit crew. Head to cityrural.au. And then they started winning race after race. Wins in Perth, Townsville, Tasmania, Gold Coast, 4 very different racetracks and different events, different lengths of race. Cam was brilliant this year, there's no question about it, but you have to look back at the first 3 rounds and go, that's probably where the championship was for him. But when he was good, he's probably one of the most spectacular guys out there. But Cam, you expect that level of performance. He's been up there for a long time. One of the great stories from this year, from my perspective, is the resurgence of Thomas Randle again. Someone who's really taken a liking to Gen 3. I mean, his first season in 2022 was really tough. You know, they talk about those big accidents he had at Tail and Bend off the start, you know, things that were kind of out of his control. But he gets to Gen 3, he's 13th overall, he's getting podiums and poles, and you're thinking, okay, Tom Randle, like, he's got real performance. This year, 5th overall. I mean, I dot my hat to Tom Randle because you don't finish 5th in a supercar season by a fluke. But I guess now the real progression for this team, which is the lead forward team for the year, which is something we'll talk about in a second, Tom Randle's going to want to win races next year because now we're talking finals. That's a big thing for them.
I mean, you're looking at the list of drivers next year who will be hunting for their first race win, and Thomas Randle's probably top of that list, isn't he? I mean, we talk about Cam Waters having a really strong season, but arguably an even bigger beneficiary of Tickford's downsizing from 4 cars to 2 it was Thomas Randle. You get more focus on him being the second car and not having to worry about the other 2 cars. Gets to work more closely with Cam Waters and his engineer, Sam Potter. And I think that really started to show, and particularly in the back end of the year. I mean, you look after Darwin, and Thomas Randle was 14th in the point standings. I mean, that's exactly halfway through the season. So the first half of the year wasn't anything special for him, but then he started really consistent. Top 10 results after top 10 results, starts getting a few podiums here and there as well. And then, I mean, the Gold Coast, the Saturday on the Gold Coast, a real banner day for Tickford, finishing 1-2, Cam Waters, then Thomas Randle. And then all the dust settles after Sunday on Adelaide, which, mind you, took a fair while after everything that happened on that day. And all of a sudden, we're looking at the final point standings and, hold on, Thomas Randle's 5th. How did that happen? And really impressive. And you wouldn't say it's exactly undeserving either, as much as, and you look at the 4 guys who are ahead of him, they're the usual suspects you'd expect to be ahead. So a really, really good season for Tom Randle, and arguably one of the MVPs of the season.
So looking to their results from this year, the head-to-heads, Cam Waters in qualifying leads 18.6, in the races at 17.7. But when Randle was quick, he was really, really quick. He even got a few poles, and he could have beaten Cam to some poles as well, but obviously we know how good Cam is over one lap. I think we should also give a bit of praise to Simon Brookhouse, the new CEO of the team. Tim Edwards, who's now with Supercars, was with Tickford at the helm for a long, long time, and Simon's come from different sporting backgrounds. And to come in, I briefly spoke to him after the Bathurst 500, and I was like, it's a pretty tough caper. The wheels come off, your boy's sick, and Tom had mixed days. It was like, well, that's motorsport. We've got to expect to go with the highs and lows. They've done that all season, and they're the lead forward team, which is going to be a massive source of pride for those guys. But 2025, a familiar face is coming back to the team, which we'll get to in a second. But would you be at all surprised if both cars were in the Championship 4 in Adelaide?
Oh, I wouldn't be totally surprised at all, no. And I mean, if Cam Waters in particular is in the Championship 4, then he goes all right at Adelaide. So, I mean, look, I think if you're looking for a driver who's probably going to be the biggest beneficiary from finals, I think it probably could be Cam Waters. He's had a little bit of a taste of NASCAR now from earlier in the season. And, I mean, I think Cam really likes to step up in the big moments, as much as he hasn't got a big win of a championship or a Bathurst yet. I mean, I think Cam, he really likes that American style of racing too, and that sort of real emphasis on winning at the back end of the season. I think that's really going to suit him down to a T at 2 circuits or 3 circuits even that he really loves. He's won races on the Gold Coast. He's a Sandown 500 winner. And, I mean, last year he won in Adelaide as well. So, I mean, you look at that, and that's a pretty good record to carry into the back end of next year. And even Thomas Randle too, if he can finally get that monkey off the back of that first win, who knows? Maybe that's going to open the floodgates for Tom Randle, because this is a guy who's a Super 2 champion. He knows how to drive a racing car. So Tickford are in a really good spot at the moment, I think.
Well, it goes without saying, you've got to start a season well to be competitive, but there's a lot of confidence that they can finish well, because Mark Winterbottom's coming back into the fold. He's joining Cam Waters, arguably one of the strongest enduro pairings of the last 20 years. And Cam Waters has had some pretty good guys in his corner. James Moffat in recent years, Michael Caruso, David Russell. But to have Mark Winterbottom fresh out of the full-time game, you've seen a few guys come out of the full-time game this year. Scott Pye, for example, he was brilliant at Sandown, and he made the mistake at Bathurst, but managed to turn it back around because he's still got that fresh racer's edge. Getting Frosty in your car and in your team and being able to mentor you again and having that existing relationship, and also Frosty as well going to mentor the young guys coming through for Super 2 and the Tickford Autosport program, that is a massive, massive get. And I think people are probably seeing the fairy tale aspect pretty well, but the performance side of that's going to be huge for Cam, because let's say he could get a podium at the Bend, podium at Bathurst, probably more. Frosty wants to win Bathurst, so they're going to be going after it. The confidence alone of having that person in your corner, I think, is going to pay huge dividends for someone like Cam, and even Tom too.
I mean, look, as much as James Moffat and Michael Caruso, they're solid co-drivers, absolutely, and very, very good on their day. But I mean, I'm sure they'd admit it, and I mean, I don't think it's too far of a reach to say that, you know, Mark Winterbottom, he is an upgrade. He is quite possibly the number 1 co-driver in the field now. I mean, this is a guy who has taken on Jamie Whincup, the GOAT of supercars, for the entirety of his career. And yes, Jamie Whincup got the better of him most times, but on his day, Mark Winterbottom got the better of Jamie Whincup, and he's got a Bathurst win and a championship to prove it. So, I mean, I think Cam is just, has to win at Bathurst at some point. He's always so fast there, and to have a steady hand like Mark Winterbottom, who is also very fast at Bathurst, it's just such a good recipe. And I would be very surprised if there weren't already a few people who might be looking to put a bit of money on Cam Waters and Mark Winterbottom to maybe get that Bathurst win next year. And I mean, we've also got the pre-Bathurst Enduro, which is now at Tailem Bend next year, and that's going to be a bit of an unknown. We've never been there for an Enduro before, and we haven't been there. We haven't been there this year, so it's going to be really interesting to see how that goes. But Bathurst is the one that everyone wants to win, and Bathurst is, I mean, it's the final before the final of the regular season, I guess you can say, before the final start as well. You have an Enduro Cup champion crown there as well. So that's a guaranteed spot in the finals if you win the Enduro Cup. So I think there's going to be a lot of people looking for very, very strong enduro performances, and Tickford have laid down their marker by bringing back the prodigal son.
Well, it could bode well to be a very, very big season for Tickford, among other teams as well. You can catch all the other reviews in our Cool Down Summer Series, brought to you by City Rural Insurance Brokers.